Hi, this is Nando from CNC Commentaries, and on this episode of CNC Movie Breakdowns, we're going to be talking about How the Grinch Stole Christmas. I am, of course, joined by my gracious host, Chase.
'Tis the season to be jolly.
It is.
Fa la 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 la. Let's watch some damn movies.
It's our first Christmas episode.
Christmas episode.
Yay!
Get ready for 12 films of Christmas coming up through this month.
We're gonna be doing so many Christmas movies. It's gonna be good. But
it's gonna be a real treat.
But first, we had to start off with the classic. You know, the OG.
Yep. We're going from one Jim Carrey classic to another Jim Carrey classic.
With one not so classic in between. But we're talking about How the Grinch Stole Christmas. And as I said earlier, this one's starring Jim Carrey as the Grinch. And he does a pretty good job in this movie. He's the best part of this movie.
I'd concur with that.
Let's go into our initial thoughts here.
Would you like me to start?
Sure, you go first.
Well, I hadn't seen this in a few years, but I grew up with this movie, and while it hasn't always been my favorite version. I do really like the short. That has a soft spot in my heart. But god damn, is Jim Carrey just so good as the Grinch. But, going into this time, there was a lot I didn't remember about this movie. And it was kind of interesting to revisit it and see, how... I always forget that this is directed by Ron Howard, too. But I don't think it holds up as well, but I still find it enjoyable for the most part. What about you, Nando?
Yeah, I'd mostly agree with that. Especially in the part where this one doesn't hold. Oh Christ. This one doesn't hold up, in my opinion. This movie is an hour and 50 minutes. And I think that it definitely drags on. Because as much as I love Jim Carrey as the Grinch, he can't carry this whole movie. Because this movie definitely has some highlights. Jim Carrey is the best part of this movie. And, he's enjoyable to watch, but a lot of the scenes just, I don't know, they just kind of bored me. This movie definitely feels too long, in my opinion, at least.
Yeah, I feel like there's definitely a lot of unnecessary scenes that drag out the length, which, this could have been a solid 90 minutes to an hour, like an hour to 90 minutes, nothing longer.
Yeah.
But, I feel like that's what makes the book and the original short so good, is that it's short, sweet, to the point.
Yeah, for
but
sure.
Why don't we dive into this film?
Yeah. So, let's start off. So, our very first scene is, we get a nice zoom in on this, nice little snowflake.
Nothing says the Christmas season like some, sort of scary, Anthony Hopkins narration.
Yeah. So we get a slow zoom in on some of this beautiful CGI snowflake, and so eventually we get these nice I don't know, panning shots of the mountains, and then eventually Whoville, where all the Who people live.
I mean, and that's one thing I really like about this movie, and I've seen kind of because they still, if you go to Universal Studios in Hollywood, they still have kind of the setup of Whoville, for their little backlot tour. But one thing I think that we can safely agree on for this movie is that the set design of Whoville and the costuming and just building that whole world is done really well.
Yeah, definitely. Like the intro scene in this movie is probably my favorite in the movie because it shows like how all the Who people like live and like there's all like these weird cars. There's like a baker going around in a little weird machine giving people pastries. You got like a marching band, and you get that really cool shot of this guy playing like a tuba, and then a smaller guy comes out of the I don't know what the part of the sound that comes out of the tuba is called.
It captures the Seuss feeling very well.
It's
Seuss
definitely
whimsy.
got life.
Yeah, is it, I think it's safe to say this is probably the best Dr. Seuss movie. I wouldn't. There's not many times I'm actively seeking out the Cat in the Hat.
Cat in the Hat is scary. That's a horror movie. I don't care what anybody tells me.
We'll put that for our next horror-thon next year.
Yeah, that movie terrified me as a child.
But I mean, we get this, like you said, we see all the Who's in their day-to-day prepping for Christmas, and it's, they have this big, like, countdown, and it's like counting down to this, like, the minute until Christmas.
Yep.
And we get this scene in a shop where we're introduced to Lou Who, and he's shopping around, and he's there with his daughter, Cindy Lou Who, and they're just getting in the swing of the Christmas season, buying presents for the family.
For sure, yeah. The shop is like extremely chaotic. Like, this shop must be making tons of money.
Well, you would think that, but then there's a little later, there's that big alert by that guy, and he's like, 99% off sale. I'm like, how are you supposed to run a business when providing 99% off or 99% off sales?
99
not 99,
cents.
not 99. Well, I mean,
that'd be a good way to make money. 99
that'd
cents
be a good
off.
deal, but 99% off is that's what I meant.
And,
practically just giving them. We're practically giving them away.
Yeah. And we're introduced to Cindy, her father Lou. Our two of our main characters here, or one of our main characters at least. And then we get a scene of a couple of hooligans.
Yeah, these rapscallions climbing up the mountain.
Yeah, they're climbing up to the Grinch's house.
And one of these guys, one of the boys, is, and we find out later that he's the son of Lou Who, or one of the sons of Lou Who, and I didn't remember that this time. I forgot about that.
Yeah. But anyway, eventually these kids get scared off by the Grinch and the Grinch's pet dog, Max. And this is when we're introduced to the Grinch, played brilliantly by Jim Carrey, aka the best part of this movie.
Take a shot every time he says that.
Yeah. We're not responsible for any deaths.
No, but this introduction is done very well. I like the slow pan up to show his face and his smirk, because if there's one thing that's iconic about the Grinch, it's that devilish smirk across his face. And I mean, we could just talk about it now, but Jim Carrey is so unrecognizable with that makeup.
Yeah, definitely. Like, you wouldn't know that it's Jim Carrey, but when he starts talking and some of his line delivery,
of course you can tell by his mannerisms, and that's what makes him so good.
That's what makes him That's what makes this Grinch Jim Carrey.
Yeah. This movie actually won the Oscar for Best Makeup that year, and I didn't know it originally, but watching it, I was always reminded just by the face of the old 1960s Planet of the Apes, and apparently it was Rick Baker that actually did the makeup for this movie as well. So that's pretty neat.
Oh yeah. So the Grinch decides that, like, oh, I need some social interaction. So he puts on this little cowl and he goes down to see how Whoville is doing. And we get these nice little moments where the Grinch is just causing a bit of chaos. He's hating Christmas when everybody's going crazy for Christmas.
I love the part where he just hands the little girls the saw.
Yeah.
That he used to like cut a break, and he's like, make sure to run real fast with that.
But
it's
eventually,
just stuff like that. He's got like a little twisted humor.
Yeah, but eventually, the Lou Who's sons get back. The guys who the Grinch scared down the mountain. They get back and they're like, oh my stars! It's the Grinch. He's there, all right. And then the mayor comes out, and this mayor fella, not a very good person.
He's, I wouldn't say he's an awful character, but he's not a likable guy.
No.
Mayor Augustus, and he's played by Jeffrey Tambor, and once again, unrecognizable. These big, like, caterpillar-like eyebrows and crazy hair, and once again, just painting the scenery of the Who world.
Yeah, for sure. And so, yeah, then we learn that the Grinch talk isn't very appreciated during Christmas time because the Grinch he hates Christmas. He's the only one who hates Christmas.
And we don't know why he hates Christmas.
And we get one of the funniest scenes in the movie. It's where the Mayor Augustus gets hit in the cheek with something, and we find out that it was the Grinch, like, on a roof with a blow dart. And it's just a quick shot of him and his blow dart gun, and he's just running away. It's just really funny.
Yeah, which I don't know how nobody in this film doesn't find it strange that there's this guy walking around with like a potato sack on him and this creepy mask, and I don't know how they don't see strands of green fur and just don't recognize him. And later on, when there's this scene where the Grinch is dressed up as Santa Claus and Cindy sees him and she doesn't recognize him at all. Yeah. She thinks it's Santa Claus. I don't know how she doesn't see that.
Oh yeah, but then we get the post office scene. This one's another good one. So the Grinch has infiltrated the post office, and so then we get to this post office scene, and let's just say the Grinch is having the time of his life in this post office scene.
Yeah, he's like messing with people's mail, and he's like giving them jury duty and whatnot.
An eviction notice.
Yeah, and like I think at one point he says coupons as well, which I guess for him coupons are a bad thing.
I don't know.
Which is strange.
Does anybody really like coupons in their mail? You gotta cut them out.
Occasionally they can be useful, but he's he's causing havoc at this post office.
He's causing a logistical nightmare.
Would you guess who shows up? But Cindy Lou Who herself.
Yeah. So her dad asked her to, like, take something to the back, which is kind of strange for a government official.
I mean, who knows what the Who government body is like, but I'm pretty sure she can't be messing with federal stuff like that.
Well, child labor, am I right?
Well, yeah.
But anyway, so she notices that it's the Grinch, And she's like, "Oh, yeah, why don't you should be included?" And the Grinch is like, "Nah, dude, that sounds boring or something." And so he throws her down like a little chute we're all like it's like a packaging chute.
Yeah.
And and you know the Grinch just tries to leave her, but you know she's going to get hurt down there. And the Grinch's dog Max is like he starts biting on the Grinch because like you can't just leave her there to die.
Yeah. Max is one of the best actors in this movie.
Yeah, despite Max being a dog, he's definitely the second best actor in this movie.
He's got some great moments. And one of my favorite things about this scene that we didn't even talk about was when Cindy and the Grinch first see each other, and Cindy screams, and then the Grinch perfectly mimics her scream, and then just jumps up to the wall, and is just like, basically like spider position with Max against the wall up top.
Yeah.
It's that's another really memorable moment.
Yeah. You know, the Grinch could actually be reimagined into a lot of things. Like, you could do Grinch horror. You could do a 50s gangster movie Grinch. It could just... There's a lot of possibility.
I think we'll have to write those.
But eventually he saves her, and then she's like, "Oh, you saved me." And then he's like, "No, I didn't. I only brought you up here so I could, wrap you up." And so he wraps her up in Christmas wrapping, and he leaves her.
Or go ahead.
Then he leaves her, but then the dad walks in because he's looking for his daughter, and then he sees her like in this human-sized Christmas packaging, struggling to get out. So he unwraps her, and he's like, "Oh, you've been working on your Christmas wrapping."
Yeah, he's so dumbstruck by like how it happened. He's just like, "I'm so proud of you." And you know, he's like once again blinded by the holiday festivities. You know, basically everyone in this movie is kind of dumb.
Yeah.
They're not the smartest. The smartest ones are probably the Grinch and Cindy.
And Max the dog.
Did Nando cut out?
Yes.
Nando
did cut out.
What?
Nando did cut out. His Discord froze. But I'll cut that part out. Anyway. So yeah, you're right. Everybody in Whoville is kind of dumb. Like, I don't know. It's not... They're just kind of ignorant. But anyway. This next scene is, so, Lou Who, he brings Cindy home, and Lou's wife is putting up the Christmas lights, and it turns out that she's taken every light from the house and or every light, like, from inside the house and put it on the outside of the house.
Yeah.
And she's going on about how, like, oh, we're gonna have the best lights. We're not gonna get beat by anybody. And there's this really funny line where Luhu is like, "Isn't this from like the chandelier?" And she's like, "A sacrifice for the cause." It's just funny dialogue. But then,
Yeah, like this is another scene where it's like, I don't know if this is like necessarily needed, but I mean and then we get introduced to Martha May, who's like this. It's like wealthier and just like fancier, and she's showing off her new like Christmas light gun thing, and she just pulls the lever, and then all the lights get shot onto the house.
Yeah, she's handling this thing like it's a MG42, and it's just really funny because she's shooting Christmas lights. Yeah. And yeah, so she completely outshines her neighbors in the Christmas light department.
And you can tell that Betty Lou, who is obviously jealous of this Martha May, but like there's Betty isn't really in any scenes, so she doesn't really bring anything to the movie.
Yeah, she's just kind of here for this one scene, actually.
Yeah, and then like at the end, and that's it.
Yeah.
Same thing with Lou.
Yeah,
Honestly,
Lou gets a little more screen time, but he doesn't really do anything
yeah, he doesn't do anything to
too
this
crazy.
story. I mean, I don't want to compare and contrast back and forth between the short, but like, that was very focused and less characters and simpler. And then I think this is trying to make, obviously this is trying to make something bigger. And then, we see that when, next up we start to go into the Grinch's backstory,
Yeah.
Cindy Lou, she's curious about the Grinch, and she's trying to figure out like why he hates Christmas. So she goes around like with her little recorder getting interviews. And so why don't you walk us into this Grinchy backstory?
Okay, so I'll give you the rundown on the Grinch backstory. So basically, she comes to find out that the Grinch, he was kind of like a weird, deformed baby. And because, he's green. And
well, I don't know, obviously we don't know what species he is necessarily, but we see that scene where the carriages are dropping, and then he like gets swapped with another one.
Yeah, maybe the character's supposed to go somewhere else. Maybe.
Yeah, so he was probably supposed to go somewhere else.
Maybe a human child went to the rest of the Grinches.
Yeah.
But anyway, so he gets sent, and he's under the care of these two old ladies.
Mm-hmm.
And they try to do their best to take care of him, but he doesn't really like Christmas. He's just not feeling it. But then, we get a flashback to the school, and so he's in class, and the mayor, who is a child, is making fun of him. Mayor Augustus, he's making fun of him. He says he has a hairy face.
It's kind of like this, it's a throwback to them at school, and so we see a young Augustus, a young Grinch, and a young Martha May, and that's where like the love triangle kind of spews.
And so eventually, Martha's like, "Oh, Christmas is my favorite," and then that Christmas, the Grinch was like, he gets really into the Christmas spirit, and he like concocts that he like makes this homemade Christmas like ornament thing.
Yeah, it's like an angel for the top of the tree.
Yeah, and
he's like stealing jewels and like breaking stuff, and it's not badly done, actually.
It was pretty good for homemade.
I'd if someone gave that to me, I'd appreciate it.
I'd put that sucker on top of the tree.
Oh yeah.
And so eventually the big day comes, but right the night before the big day, the Grinch gets a little insecure, and he has a little flashback about how Mayor Augustus called his face hairy. And so he's like, you know what I'll do? So he takes a razor and he tries to shave himself.
Which, Augustus is one to talk with that head of hair on him.
Yeah, like...
with those little sideways floofs.
Well, he's got a weird nose. Like, what is going on here?
I mean, that's most of the Who's, but... And that's another thing, Cindy looks nothing like her parents at all.
Cindy has a regular human nose.
Well, no, she just looks like a regular human.
Yeah. Who is this girl?
Where did she come from?
She managed to, infiltrate the Who society.
Maybe she was the mixed-up child. This
Yeah.
was like a Dumbo gone wrong scenario with delivering the kids.
And so the Grinch shows up to class where they're supposed to have their Christmas like event, and he shows up wearing a paper bag, and so he gets the class's attention, and the teacher's like, take off the paper bag. So he says this, he puts his journal in front of him, he takes off the bag, and the teacher's like, take off the book. And so he puts on the book, and you see that he's messed up a little on his shave job, and he's cut himself in little places, and so he has bandages on his face. And so the entire class laughs at him, and he tries to give her his present, but eventually he just gets laughed at. And he's like, I hate Christmas, and then he throws his present on the ground, shattering it.
Which, obviously this story, every Dr. Seuss story has, like, a moral within it, deep down. And, obviously this is, like, to, not make fun of people who are different and, be more welcoming.
Yeah, Doctor Who's ahead of his time.
Oh, just... One day we're just going to have to do a side episode of something talking about Dr. Seuss books, because I could go in depth on the Butter Battle book, but yeah, we kind of didn't mention, we didn't really talk about like baby Grinch, and baby Grinch, very similar looking to baby Yoda.
Yeah,
might I say?
Maybe this is a prequel.
Look, I'm not saying baby Grinch did it better, but.
Well, good.
Let's just say when he bit into that Santa plate.
Well, good thing you're not saying that, because that would be absolutely incorrect.
But anyways, we get this backstory, and then, after this embarrassment, the Grinch basically swears off Christmas and anything having to do with the holiday, just because Martha loved it so much. And so he runs off, and then we get this follow-up scene of him basically climbing up a mountain, and I'm like, how strong is that kid that he's able to just go up that mountain? And I'm thinking, this isn't gonna end well for him. He's gonna probably jump off that mountain. This could go a lot darker. Obviously I don't think that'll happen in this story, but it could, realistically, if you bullied him so much and then he ran up a mountain.
But oh well, I guess this Grinch is just made out of the hardest stuff, dude.
Yeah.
I really don't I don't know if I just missed it in the movie, but I don't know how the Grinch met his dog Max.
I was just thinking that.
Like, Max just appears. Like, it isn't told how he met Max in the backstory.
And you know what? They just need to make a prequel film about Max's origins, because once again, best character.
Second best.
Well, he probably just went to a dog shelter.
Or maybe Max was a lost puppy on the mountain.
A rabid hound.
I don't know.
Anyways, let's get back into this.
But so everybody's getting excited because in Whoville their early Christmas celebration is happening, where they're going to give somebody an award. And so everybody's pretty excited. And then Cindy wants to nominate the Grinch, and then she says, just because he's different doesn't mean we should exclude him. Pretty powerful message. Cindy's ahead of her time.
Very poignant.
Yeah. And so everybody in the town's like, that's not a bad idea.
Except for Mayor Augustus.
Yeah, Mayor Augustus has won this award like 29 years in a row.
Yeah. And he's basically making up fake rules in like the rule book saying,
Yeah, the who.
no, no, no. It says here, Grinch cannot get the award because this and this and this.
Yeah, I mean, Cindy would make quite the lawyer because, she breaks out the book and she shows a rule like nobody can be excluded. Everybody should
Yeah,
be
I don't know
invited.
how old she is, but she's very smart for her age.
Yeah, she doesn't just think it, she's breaking out the hard evidence.
Which, you know, we also never see her in school. She's
Yeah.
just out and about.
She just ditches school to record the Grinch's backstory. But yeah, this definitely shows that Mayor Augustus he's really egotistical.
Well, I mean, and we see that later, like at the forefront when so Cindy goes up to meet with the Grinch and basically tell him that he's being nominated for this award. He could win it, or he will win it. And she goes down the little garbage chute to his house.
Yeah.
Because he's got this nifty garbage chute that connects and like dumps toxic waste and whatnot.
Yeah. But yeah, so Cindy makes the trek up and she gets the garbage chute and she meets with the Grinch. And of course, the Grinch is like, "What are you doing here?" The Grinch isn't very used to visitors. And so, yeah, she tells him, like, "Oh, you've won an award." Or, like, "You're about to win an award." And, the Grinch eventually kicks her out. Because he's like, "Get away from me. You're not supposed to be here." And, we get this really cool, like, scene where the Grinch is almost, like, talking to himself about whether he should go or not.
Yeah, this is another fun scene.
Yeah, and so he's at first he's like, "I'll only go if I have something good to wear," and like he goes through all his clothes and he doesn't have anything good to wear. So eventually he just grabs this random guy and steals his clothes.
I mean, this is like kind of what we're saying. Like these scenes where it's just Jim Carrey being Jim Carrey at his best and at his most Grinchy are the best moments and most memorable moments.
Yeah.
And like, could you just imagine if they made like a 35-minute to 40-minute just live action thing with just Jim Carrey?
Yeah,
and as it not focus so much on like all the citizens of Whoville down there, because this is supposed to be the Grinch's story.
Yeah, it's called The Grinch Who Stole Christmas, not Cindy Lou Who Stole Christmas.
Well, Cindy isn't that heartless, but
yeah. But I think it's kind of amazing that how Jim Carrey can act like as the Grinch when he's literally only talking to himself. It's pretty amazing because he doesn't have like another person to bounce off. He's just talking to himself.
Also, just how vibrant he is with his facial expressions.
Yeah, because
and his movements.
Yeah, because he's in heavy makeup. Like this isn't Jim Carrey's face. This is the Grinch's
and a
face.
fursuit.
Yeah, it must get hot under there. That must not be nice.
Yeah.
So eventually he's like, "I'm going. It's decided." And so he decides whether to be fashionably late or not. But yeah, eventually he they're at the award ceremony and the mayor is like, "And the award goes to the Grinch." But then he isn't there.
And he's like, what a surprise.
Yeah.
Grinch didn't show up.
But then, he's like, "Well, the award has to go to the runner-up." And then as he's about to, say himself, the Grinch comes flying out of the garbage chute. And he bounces into a ton of things.
Yeah, it's so weird. Like, he's just ping-ponging off of everything.
Yeah, first he smacks into, like a sign. Then he smacks into, like, a flag. And then he lands in, well, let's say.
Oh, he lands into Martha May.
Yeah.
Hey,
We'll,
how's it going, Martha May?
we'll just leave it at that. Um,
uh, you know, just he's able to still recognize her after all that time. So
yeah. But eventually, the Grinch shows up, and the town, like the Whoville citizens are like, they're kind of surprised that he shows up. You know. But he shows up, and he's getting his award, and the two old ladies that were caring for him, they come to the front. They're like, "Oh, we've missed you."
well, Mayor Augustus is purposely doing all this stuff to, you know, piss off the Grinch and you know, get out his more Grinchy side because the Grinch is trying to be tame right now and at least, respectfully get his award.
Yeah, he's trying to be civil. Like he said, like, "I'll get my award and then I'll leave." But
So he brings up these people that raised him, and he pulls out the big, middle finger to him, and he proposes to Martha May,
yeah, so after
which I guess he just has a ring
it's like,
laying in his pocket at all times for these kinds of moments.
but so yeah, he feeds the Grinch a bunch of food. He puts him in a holiday chair, and he puts him in like what are those races called where you like stand in like a sack and you jump? I'm just gonna call it a potato sack race.
Oh yeah, yeah. Oh yeah. But anyways, that Martha, like, you can tell she doesn't really like Mayor Augustus,
No,
and
she
is only
doesn't.
doing this because like he's got money basically.
Uh-huh.
And then the mayor's offering her a new car, and it's like a little game show moment. He's like, "You have 10 seconds to make your decision,"
Yeah.
and the Grinch just scratches the car.
Yeah. And I don't know if it was just me, but the Grinch kind of seemed happy in his own little Grinch way during like these events, especially after he won like the potato sack race.
Yeah, I mean, when that race is happening, you get the
You get him pushing
the
kids
Chariots of
over.
Fire reference with the music, the dun 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 dun.
He's like pushing over kids. And I don't
You
know,
know,
he just seems happy.
you know that the mayor is like forcing him to do all this holiday stuff, forcing him to, eat all these crazy foods before, he can get his award and do all this stuff. But you can also tell that like he's kind of enjoying it, like a little bit.
Yeah. And so they give him his award present, and you wouldn't believe what it was. A razor. Oh no. And so the Grinch kind of gets like a PTSD flashback. And then, Mayor Augustus pops the question, the Grinch scratches the car, and he starts yelling at people.
Yeah, the Grinch has practically lost it at this point.
Yeah.
And rightly so, the mayor is purposely trying to eke him off.
Yeah.
And so he shaves the mayor's head.
Yeah, he just messes up his hair.
I mean, what's more dangerous, shaving off that random hair on the mayor, or feeding the Grinch all these random foods without knowing if he has any allergies?
Yeah, and then there's this really kind of weird scene where the Grinch makes like a makeshift flamethrower and burns down the Christmas tree.
Yeah.
Like, Jesus
And
Christ.
that tree disappears so quickly.
Like, that tree must have been thousands of years old.
It's just gone in seconds.
Like, Jesus.
And puffs of ash.
Yeah, so the town goes into general chaos, and the Grinch starts running away, almost like he's a fugitive of the law. And then he gets into, like, this tiny car. And, I just love this chaotic scene of the Grinch just, like, in this tiny car going through the city. And I feel like this movie definitely picks up in the like its later parts. But
Yeah.
that's just
I mean, cool, because it's more close to the story of the Grinch than we know.
yeah, it's
But, like, we're saying all this. I don't think there's necessarily a awful scene in this
No,
movie.
it just they're just kind of like mediocre or boring scenes, like strung
Yeah.
together, that just kind of get real boring real fast. When I want to see more Jim Carrey.
Like, and I almost feel like at times it's almost like too dark. You know, it's not like bright and vibrant that you'd like think of from like a Christmas movie and a Dr. Seuss story. But I maybe that's like more Ron Howard's direction.
Yeah, I think that's kind of intentional. Granted, it might
There's
not.
nothing like spectacular with the direction.
No, like the direction doesn't really pop out.
Yeah.
Like in movies like The Truman Show, the direction really like pops out. Like you can tell, like, ooh, that probably took a while, or ooh, that was intentionally done. But here,
Make,
nothing really.
make sure to listen to our Truman Show episode.
Yeah, that was me plugging the Truman Show episode starring special guest Rainey. Please like and subscribe. Anyway, so, uh,
So, anyways, Mayor Augustus is pretty pissed off, and rightly so, to a point. But he was also should have been expecting this, and this is kind of the reaction he wanted from the Grinch, so he didn't have to deal with him, and he could be like, "Hey, I was right." But mostly, he's like, "See, Cindy, I told you no good would happen from this."
yeah,
He's basically like, "Cindy, you were wrong," you know. Which she's just a little girl.
yeah. And then we see that the Grinch is kind of angry too, and he finally concocts his final master plan. He finally concocts how the Grinch will steal Christmas. So what he does is he makes a Santa outfit and he makes a killer Santa sleigh. This thing's like, this thing would be illegal to drive in a lot of places.
This thing defies the laws of physics.
It does. It's got like 2 rocket boosters on the back.
I mean, I just mean like that, you know, how that sleigh with that giant sack of toys doesn't topple over the mountain.
Huh. And so, yeah, we actually get to see Santa Claus in this movie.
Yeah. I mean, that's another thing you like never think of. Like, there is a Santa in this movie for a split second. You know, we don't see his face, but he is in the Who universe.
We see his sleigh and we see him take off. But the Grinch takes off his own sleigh and he runs down to Whoville. And the first house he hits is Cindy's.
Because, of course.
So he walks into this house and he tries to take the whole Christmas tree. But then Cindy wakes up and she's like, "Oh, Santa." She doesn't recognize that it's the Grinch for some reason.
Which, I don't know how, like, at first he's hiding behind the Christmas tree.
He's not even hiding his face when he comes out.
Yeah, he's just there, and then she can see his face. And I guess, I don't know, maybe she's still a little tired because she was getting water, but I don't know how you wouldn't recognize the Grinch in that moment. You know, in the short, of course, it makes sense because that is the first time him and Cindy meet.
Yeah.
But like in this context, it doesn't really make too much sense.
Yeah, but she just treats him like Santa, and she wishes him a happy Christmas, and she asks Santa to visit the Grinch.
Mm-hmm.
And that kind of makes the Grinch have a change of heart.
Huh, literally later.
Yeah. When I was watching this movie, again, I was like, does the Grinch have a heart attack? But, yeah. So, eventually, why don't you walk us through what the Grinch does at Mayor Augustus's house?
So, he goes from Cindy's house to Mayor Augustus's house. And this is a really odd scene. So, he goes into Augustus's bedroom, and he's messing with him, and basically Augustus is asleep, and so he's planning on messing with him, and he's doing all these little things and whatnot, and then I don't know why he does this, but he kisses Mayor Augustus while he's asleep, and he's basically like, take that.
Quite the power move.
And then we just get this great reaction shot from Max, like, really? Was that necessary? Which, maybe the Grinch isn't in love with Martha May.
It's a secret plot twist.
But we also, we see that he ties up his bed to a car outside. So then later we got this payoff of when that car drives off, Mayor Augustus is dragged through a window, and yeah.
Yeah, the Grinch took a lot of risks here. He could have accidentally killed Mayor Augustus.
I don't think he cares much.
I don't know. He's trying to have a change of heart, trying to turn over a new leaf.
I don't know why they don't arrest him.
I mean, Mayor Augustus eventually, when everything is said and done, he's like, arrest this man. But then the officer's
no, they could have got him earlier, though, after, like, burned down the tree.
Yeah, but then again, he was a fugitive on the run.
They know where he lives.
Yeah. But eventually, the Grinch manages to save all the presents that he stole, and he gives them back. And then we get that scene where the Grinch's heart grows in size.
I mean, yeah. You kind of like fast forward a bit, but yeah, it plays out exactly like the end of the story. He gets the presents, then everyone comes down, realizes their presents are gone. And what I didn't like was, right off in that, the only thing I don't like about this ending is, right off when the Who's wake up and they see that they don't have any presents, they're supposed to start singing around the tree, right? And that's what brings them together, and they're like, this isn't about the presents, this is about, family, community with one another. But instead, when they wake up, it's all, Augustus is in havoc and, trying to find the Grinch, and they're like, there's only one man that could have done this. It must be the Grinch.
What is sad?
And so I felt like that kind of like took away from the heart a bit, and the resolution at the end where they actually do that singing around the tree.
Yeah. But oh well.
But that's just a little nitpick.
Oh yeah, but eventually, the Grinch. Eventually Martha May decides that she's not going to marry Mayor Augustus, and she's like, my heart belongs with the Grinch.
Mm-hmm.
And then we get this really funny interaction where right after this, the Grinch turns to Mayor Augustus, and he's like, no hard feelings. And I was like, I kind of feel like there's going to be some hard feelings.
I feel like Mayor Augustus's little assistant guy kind of had a crush on him. I'm not gonna lie.
I don't know if that's headcanon or not, though.
That's what I'm sticking to.
But yeah, eventually the Grinch invites the people of Whoville to his cave for a nice holiday dinner.
They cut the roast beast.
And that's how the movie ends.
And that is Dr. Seuss's How the Grinch Stole Christmas.
It's pretty solid. Not as good as I remember it, but not bad.
And who would have thought that all that took place on a snowflake?
Yeah, then we get a cool zoom out of the snowflake. Everybody's happy. The end. So,
but yeah, it's a pretty decent, memorable Christmas flick.
Yeah. Why don't we? I'll go first for the closing thoughts and rating.
Okay.
So the Grinch, How the Grinch Stole Christmas. It's a classic. It's an OG, a certified hood classic. And I think it has a strong central message. Jim Carrey definitely carries the movie, but I think the movie doesn't hold up as well as most people remember it. But yeah, I think it's still enjoyable. Definitely not bad, but definitely not as good as people remember it. So I'm gonna give How the Grinch Stole Christmas a 6.5 out of 10, with a bonus. Pretty
solid.
Yeah, pretty solid, with a bonus star for Jim Carrey.
Oh.
What about you, Chase? What about your final thoughts?
Well, you and I are kind of in the same vein here. I feel like this, of course, probably does you know hold, hold up a lot better for younger people, and it's probably a lot more fun in that aspect. But of course, Jim Carrey, star of the film, great. But I feel like at a certain point you're watching this, and then you do start to feel the runtime drag out a bit. As soon as he starts to go steal presents, you still have like 40 minutes left of the movie, and why watch that? Why watch this when you could watch the half an hour short where you get the same thing? But it's enjoyable, and it's a Christmas classic for a reason, and most obviously because of Carrie's performance and because of just the atmosphere of Whoville and the just the Dr. Seuss whimsy that it brings. I would probably rate this a 6.5 as well.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was nice to revisit it.
Yeah. And with that was The Grinch Stole Christmas.
But this is just the start of our Christmas marathon.
Oh yeah, we're gonna have quite the extravaganza.
Yes, we are. Would you like me to give a tease?
Go ahead.
Well, if you've made it this far, you can, like the video, comment, let us know your thoughts on How the Grinch Stole Christmas, subscribe, do all that jazz, share it with a friend. But next time on the show, we're going to be talking about another Christmas classic. We are going to be talking about a 1990 film directed by Chris Columbus. We are, of course, talking about the holiday classic, Home Alone.
Oh, boy.
And that's going to be a lot of fun. I'm very excited to talk about that.
I can't wait. I used to have a recurring nightmare about Home Alone. I can't wait.
And that's where we're going to leave it. We're going to leave it on that tease right there.
Well, thanks, everybody. Bye.
Bye.